Before we jump into today's courtroom showdown, buckle up because this hearing goes from tense to explosive in a matter of minutes. What starts as a routine discussion quickly turns into a courtroom battle over accountability, honesty, and a defendant who seems determined to challenge nearly every statement made by the judge. The central issue isn't just the new charges he's facing, it's the weight of his past and whether he's being truthful about it. As this hearing unfolds, you'll watch a judge methodically break down court records, expose contradictions, and explain exactly why prior convictions matter far more than many defendants realize. One of the most dramatic moments comes when the judge confronts the defendant with official documents that appear to directly contradict what he's claiming in court. And trust us, that exchange completely changes the tone of the hearing. But that's not all. The stakes continue rising when the court discusses felony enhancements, prison exposure, and how a previous conviction can dramatically increase potential punishment. What may have once looked like a manageable legal problem suddenly becomes something much more serious. Then, just when you think the focus will stay on the criminal charges, the conversation shifts toward public safety, GPS monitoring, and whether the court should continue tracking the defendant's movements. Adding another unexpected twist, the alleged victim in these cases is no longer alive, but not because of anything related to the defendant's charges. That tragic development creates an entirely new legal debate about what restrictions are still necessary and whether justice should adapt to changing circumstances. As you watch, pay attention to how the judge handles interruptions, challenges misleading statements, and explains the legal consequences of prior convictions. Do you think the defendant is genuinely confused about the legal system, or is he trying to minimize his criminal history? Let us know your thoughts as we go because this courtroom encounter is packed with lessons about credibility, responsibility, and the power of official court records.
Do you have something tomorrow? Are you going to be here tomorrow?
Tomorrow, no, not tomorrow. But on Anthony Levine, that's just I just wanted to go on. She's in Florida, and if y'all just
I got something for Little Langston.
oh,
And but I'll have it in the morning. Is this boring you?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Yeah, no, you're sighing.
Yeah.
You're sighing? Are you sighing?
Tired, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, quit sighing. Do it outside. All right.
I don't want to
Just informative.
I know this is bothering you, but let me just say,
I didn't
be
say
quiet,
anything.
sir. I will speak. See, the rules don't apply to you, do they? You've already been convicted of squeezing somebody's neck, assaulting a family member.
No.
You were convicted in 2006.
That wasn't a family though. That was not.
I'm sorry, it's assault on a family member.
That was not related to James McCain.
Let me see the prior conviction, please.
The atmosphere in this courtroom changes immediately once the judge starts reviewing the official records. What we're seeing here is one of the most important principles in any legal proceeding. Documents often carry more weight than personal recollections. The defendant appears to be disputing the characterization of his past case, but the judge isn't relying on opinions or assumptions. She's relying on the court's own records. This is where credibility becomes critical. Judges pay very close attention to whether someone is being accurate, evasive, or contradictory. Even if a defendant believes a prior case was unfair or misunderstood, the court must operate based on the legal outcome reflected in the record. Notice how the judge carefully walks through dates, probation terms, and the eventual revocation. She's building a timeline piece by piece. Viewers, what do you think? Is this a misunderstanding about legal terminology, or does it seem like the defendant is trying to distance himself from a conviction that could have major consequences in the present case?
In the indictment, the grand jury is wrong. Looking at the adjudication of guilt in 85552, which is the allegation in paragraph 2 of this third-degree felony of assault on a family member that you're charged with, which alleges that in the 252nd district court next door, you were convicted of assault on a family member on February 24th, 2006 in 85552. Strangely enough, I'm looking at the judgment which says exactly that. You were placed on probation in that case on May 15th of 2002, 6 years deferred or unadjudicated probation. And the judge revoked that probation February 24th, 2006, exactly like this indictment states, and sentenced you to 3 years in prison. You're going to look me in the eye and say you weren't convicted of assault on a family member when this document says you were?
I was violated for technicality. And
What is violated? Who violated you?
The
You
judge.
violated your probation.
Because I was behind in my probation fees. I never did receive a PRT.
Once again, were you finally convicted by?
This is a pivotal moment because the conversation is no longer just about what happened years ago. It's about honesty in the courtroom today. The judge is making it clear that prior convictions aren't simply historical facts tucked away in a file cabinet. They actively influence how current charges are treated under the law. Many people don't realize that when someone faces a new criminal allegation, prosecutors and judges often examine their prior record to determine punishment ranges and eligibility for certain forms of relief. That's why the judge keeps returning to the same issue. From her perspective, whether the defendant acknowledges the conviction matters because the legal system already has documentation establishing it. What stands out here is the growing frustration. The judge appears concerned that the defendant is minimizing facts that she views as legally settled. Once a judge begins questioning a person's credibility, every statement that follows tends to receive greater scrutiny.
That judge, and was your probation revoked?
My probation was revoked.
And you were finally convicted?
Well, I don't even understand the system, so I felt like
You know what? It's real
I
easy
didn't
to
receive-
figure out.
I didn't receive a federal.
Yeah, it's easy to figure out. But you came in and just earlier falsely told me that you were convicted, and there's the document that says you were.
But that case has nothing.
That has nothing to do with what?
What I'm in here for?
Yes, it does. Because prior convictions enhance and elevate the punishment when you subsequently commit crimes. It's never in the past, sir.
Well, I was falsely accused because the guy.
You know what? You were convicted by
He
law.
was not my family member. He was not a family.
You were convicted by law.
Related in no way, shape, form, or fashion.
Were you finished? You were convicted. And when you look at me and say you weren't, you were lying to me. There's the document, the law that says you were. Which means this third-degree felony that you're charged with, which is similarly a crime against a family member, and you choked this person.
Yes.
When you
The judge's comments here highlight just how seriously courts treat allegations involving strangulation or choking. Across many jurisdictions, these offenses are viewed as particularly dangerous because they can escalate rapidly and may indicate a heightened risk of severe injury or death. At the same time, courtroom decorum is becoming a major issue. Notice how often the judge has to stop the defendant from interrupting. Whether someone agrees or disagrees with the court, there are procedures for speaking and responding. Judges generally expect participants to wait their turn, and repeated interruptions rarely help a defendant's position. What's interesting is that the hearing is now focusing on two separate concerns: the criminal allegations themselves and the defendant's conduct in court. Those two things may seem unrelated, but together they shape how the judge views the entire situation.
choke somebody, there's only one reason: you're trying to kill.
That's not my family member. She's dead.
When I finish speaking, you get a chance to speak, Mr. Interrupter. You see, the rules don't follow. The rules of decorum don't follow with you. You don't believe in the law right here,
No.
and you interrupt.
Excuse me, sir.
Sir, don't speak
Okay.
until I'm through. She can't take both of us speaking. But you are just Mr. Rude from the beginning. You were rude from the beginning. You're defiant from the beginning. It's just like a child.
Yes, sir. I apologize.
It's just like a child. Let's start acting like adults. What this means is this new case of choking, squeezing somebody's neck, which is a third-degree felony if convicted. This prior conviction in 2006 bumps this up from a third-degree felony to a second-degree felony. So in spite of the fact you want to play it down and it's not important, it changes the punishment range in your case from a third-degree felony up to 10 years in prison to now you're looking up to 20 years in prison. Plus, you're not eligible for.
Now we're getting into the numbers, and this is where the legal stakes become crystal clear. The judge is explaining that the prior conviction doesn't just sit in the background. It potentially increases the punishment range dramatically. That's a massive difference in exposure and one of the reasons enhancement laws exist. For viewers who aren't familiar with criminal law, enhancements can transform a case from serious to life-changing. The same alleged conduct can carry significantly different consequences depending on a defendant's criminal history. The judge is essentially telling him that his past is legally connected to his future. Think about the bigger picture here. Whether someone agrees with enhancement laws or not, they reflect a policy decision that repeat offenses should be punished more severely. Do you believe prior convictions should heavily impact future sentencing, or should every new case be judged largely on its own facts? That's a debate that continues across the legal system.
Probation because you have a prior felony conviction. I'd consider that important and serious to deal with. But if that were the only thing, you got another third-degree felony charged in the stalking case in 25 CR 866. And then this 867 is the assault. So you're looking at, on this stalking case, this says it occurred on or about May 7th of 25. Is the state going to re-indict that to allege this prior conviction in 85552?
I don't know yet, Judge. Since the complainant in both of these cases is deceased, I know I can prove the assault family violence. I got to look at the stalking to make sure. If I can, I probably will. Either that or give a notice of enhancement. That's all we need to do to enhance it.
Right now, this other case of stalking, you're facing a third-degree felony, up to 10 years in prison. So
the hearing now shifts into a fascinating legal discussion about bond conditions and GPS monitoring. Defense counsel is making a practical argument. The original purpose of the monitor was to protect the complainant, and because the complainant is now deceased, that purpose no longer exists. This is actually a common type of courtroom debate. Bond conditions are supposed to address specific risks. If circumstances change, attorneys often argue that restrictions should change as well. The defense is focusing on fairness and financial burden, while the court is considering broader public safety concerns. Neither side is necessarily arguing about guilt or innocence at this moment. Instead, they're discussing risk management before trial. That's an important distinction because pretrial conditions are designed to balance individual liberty against community safety.
both of these, you're looking at up to 30 years in prison and you're not eligible for probation. John, what are we going to do today?
Your Honor, this is an issue that he's on a GPS monitor. One of the issues was to protect and keep the victim safe. However, the victim, like Mr. Laird said, is now deceased. So we are arguing and feel that a GPS is not needed for that reason anymore. And so we can just return it back to normal conditions of bond and then keep moving forward with the case. But with no GPS, it's become financially burdensome to do that. And the need for it has now gone away.
We'll say so.
As far as the complainant is concerned, yes, the need has gone away, but safety of the public is also concerned, and he does have a prior for committing this on another person. So I worry about anybody else he comes in contact with that we don't know where he is and can't prove that it's him right away. So
Your Honor, my counter to that is that when it was a victim, it was easy. It was good to have the GPS because we could show if he was going around her or where she was. But as far as a GPS protecting the public, it doesn't do anything for the public. I mean, he still has a right to go wherever he wants to go within limits, but we're not restricting him about being near somebody. We can't say stay away from everyone, and we can't control whether he commits another crime against another person. I mean, GPS monitors are not going to prevent that, do anything about that.
What makes this exchange so interesting is that both sides are presenting rational arguments from different perspectives. The judge believes monitoring may discourage future misconduct because the defendant knows his movements can be tracked. Defense counsel counters that GPS doesn't physically prevent crimes and therefore may not provide the protection people assume it does. This debate touches on a broader criminal justice question. How effective are monitoring systems at preventing future offenses? Some argue they provide accountability and deterrence. Others argue they mostly create a record after something happens rather than stopping it beforehand. Regardless of where you stand, this discussion demonstrates how judges constantly weigh competing priorities. Public safety, individual rights, financial burden, and fairness all collide in decisions like this.
When it was a victim in the case, it had its purpose, but now it doesn't have that purpose anymore.
But it does make a person know that they're being monitored to where they're at. So it keeps them at least from committing further crimes, knowing they've got a monitor on. It's up to the court.
Certainly is.
I'm just making my argument, but
Yeah, I just think that whether if he commits another crime, he knows he can get in trouble no matter what, whether GPS or not. If he walks into Dillard's and commits a crime, people are going to know he's in Dillard's. GPS is not going to do anything to stop that or to help that or to do anything with that.
GPS has its importance in certain kinds of cases. Yeah.
Like I said, Your Honor, I don't think it has a reason in this case now. It did before the victim passed away. It absolutely had a reason, but now it doesn't have a reason. And he hasn't missed court. I know there's another reason we use GPS to make sure people come to court. He's come to court.
He sent a letter to me. Everybody gets a copy. When back in September a year ago, everybody gets a copy.
I have a copy of it, Jeff.
Okay.
You can sense the judge carefully reconsidering the original reason the GPS condition was imposed. Rather than automatically keeping restrictions in place, she's examining whether the circumstances that justified them still exist. That's exactly what judicial review is supposed to look like. One detail that stands out is the judge's concern about consistency. She specifically mentions that she doesn't normally order GPS monitoring in situations like this. Courts often strive to treat similar cases similarly, and judges are generally cautious about creating exceptions without a compelling reason. This is also a reminder that hearings aren't always about punishment. Sometimes they're about reassessing decisions and making sure conditions remain appropriate as facts evolve.
I've never ordered a GPS on situations like circumstances like this, and I don't understand how, what's fair is fair. If I did it here in this case, we're really curious about the whereabouts of everybody that's on roll, but that opens a door.
And I think it was originally ordered in this case because it was a stalking case, and we wanted to make sure he wasn't bothering the victim. How did
the lady pass?
Unrelated.
The revelation about how the complainant died adds a tragic and unexpected layer to the case. According to the discussion, her death was unrelated to these allegations and resulted from an entirely separate incident. That changes the legal landscape significantly because the original protective purpose of the monitoring condition can no longer be fulfilled. Moments like this remind us that courtroom cases often intersect with real human tragedies. Behind every case file are people whose lives have been affected in ways that extend far beyond the legal issues being argued in court. The judge now has to evaluate the case based on current realities rather than past assumptions, and that appears to be influencing her thinking on the GPS issue.
There was
a shooting at an apartment complex, and she was an innocent bystander who got caught in the crossfire.
A sad thing, but it had nothing to do with this case.
Kind of like last case, last trial.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see what a GPS device is necessary.
Not now.
Under this circumstance.
At this point, the judge appears to have reached a practical conclusion. While she still views the charges as serious, she no longer sees a compelling justification for continuing GPS monitoring under these specific circumstances. Notice that removing one bond condition doesn't mean the defendant is free from court supervision. Standard bond requirements remain in place, and any new violations could create significant consequences. That's an important distinction many people miss. The court isn't saying the allegations aren't serious. Instead, It's saying that a particular restriction may no longer be necessary based on the facts currently before the court.
But you do have conditions of bond, which are
Oh, sure, absolutely.
normal and customary for everybody, like don't commit another crime. Because that'll get you.
Yeah.
Right now, you're looking at something that's serious enough. You don't need to add to it. But okay. The next thing is, these are indictments a year ago. So what are we going to do?
I believe it was set for and already set towards the trial's office.
Is this set for trial already? The DA's office?
Yes, sir.
When is the docket, please?
I don't know when the date is, but I know it was set for trial already.
Now the focus shifts toward trial preparation, and this is where cases move from preliminary disputes into the next major phase of litigation. The judge wants to know whether evidence can be recovered, whether the parties are ready, and how quickly the matter can proceed. This stage may not seem as dramatic as the earlier exchanges, but it's often where the future of a case is determined. Trial preparation affects strategy, evidence presentation, witness availability, and ultimately the strength of each side's position. The courtroom fireworks we've seen today are important, but the eventual trial is where the allegations themselves will receive the closest examination.
Are y'all able to recover that video? Or is that one?
Yeah, we'll be able to recover by the time we get trial. It's easy. It's not that big a deal.
No separate trial.
Seems necessary now.
August, right?
Yeah, August.
As this hearing comes to a close, one thing is clear. Credibility has been one of the central themes from start to finish. The judge repeatedly challenged statements she believed were inconsistent with official records, while the defense focused on practical concerns involving bond conditions and fairness. We've also seen how prior convictions can dramatically alter a defendant's legal situation. What may initially appear to be a dispute over paperwork can quickly become a discussion about sentencing exposure, probation eligibility, and long-term consequences. These are the kinds of hearings that remind us why courtroom proceedings are rarely as simple as they first appear.
No separate trial.
Seems necessary now.
August, right?
Yeah, August. Okay. All right. Get a resetting there. That's what we're going to do.
Today's hearing delivered several major developments. First, the judge directly confronted the defendant regarding a prior assault conviction, relying on official court documents to challenge his claims. Second, the court explained how that conviction could enhance current charges and substantially increase potential punishment if the defendant is ultimately convicted. Third, the discussion shifted to pretrial supervision, where the court carefully evaluated whether GPS monitoring remained necessary after the complainant's tragic and unrelated death. Perhaps the biggest takeaway is that courts place enormous importance on credibility and documented evidence. Throughout the hearing, the judge emphasized that official records, not personal interpretations, drive legal decisions. We also saw the constant balancing act between public safety, fairness, and the rights of individuals awaiting trial. Now we want to hear from you. Do you agree with the judge's handling of the prior conviction issue? Was removing the GPS monitor the right decision under these circumstances? Share your thoughts below and join the discussion. If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the Judge Talk for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns, legal analysis, and unforgettable courtroom moments.